Welcome back to another Pen Talk. Thanks for tuning in. This is a video I've been thinking about doing for about a week or so, ever since I was able to fill out my Signum collection at the Long Island Pen Show. Been a lot of nice comments about people who are interested in the Signum pens, and I wish it was something that anybody could purchase as easily as I did, but sadly, it's not an easy pen to find. I will show you a link. They are selling them on the Fountain Pen Hospital. A little bit more money than I paid for it at the pen show, but that's not uncommon in this industry. I'm also showing my daily carry Nook because two of the Signums have become daily carries, and the other two will probably join at some point in time as I change over my daily carries and my writing becomes, changes what I'm kind of like focused on, what excites me, what is interesting. So all of the four Signums, and this one's the Seawood Delta, which was my #1 pen, and I still use it probably 30 or 40% of the time. I love the way the nib was ground, and with Franklin green ink, I just think it's a phenomenal combination. So all four Signums were purchased with a broad 18 karat gold nib. Two of them have been ground and two of them are as is, so I want to be able to show you the differences and changes and also explain the grind, why I did what I did, and how that changes the writing experience. And maybe at some point in time that's something that you might be interested in. So remove the one non-Signum from the collection. We'll take these two out of their Nook. I keep calling it Nook, I think it's Nook. So these pens are actually, I would put them into two groups. These three are the, I don't know how you call them, they're the divine proportions. They all have a special clip on them that is representative of designs of columns during the Roman period. So we have your Ionic, Corinthian, and Doric. I remember to say the right names there. Let's take a look at these a little bit closer up, because I think the detail on these is excellent. I have to admit that Signums, at least from my experience with them, I find them to be kind of similar to the Deltas, which I love. The level of detail, the metal is sterling, the acrylic, the polish, the finish, just the whole thing is just an excellent package, and they write beautifully. The gray, I guess you'd call this like a purple gray, the brown, which has the vermeil trim on it, so that's a gold plate over sterling, and then this beautiful light blue design here. The one thing that's also nice is they all unscrew. The sections are the same materials as the nibs, and the nibs have the same type of color scheme to them that is in the rest of the pen, which is nice. So two rhodium plated trim, and the metals are sterling, and of course there's 18 karat gold underneath of the plating. So these are the two that have been ground. I'm going to see if we can, let you take a look at these, and I think it's kind of obvious when you look at these differences as to how they're ground. So the one on the right, which is this one here, is an architect's grind. That was the first one I had ground. And the one on the left of that is kind of a italic, kind of a left oblique. So that's how they come out. And let's take a look at that in reference to one that has not been ground. Most of the, obviously the evidence of the grinding is on the reverse side of the nib, and the tipping material, as you can see, is substantial on the pen to the far left here that has not had any work done on it, and then the one that has a slight italic grind to it, and then this one has the architect grind, which is considering it like a zoom nib. So it's a triangular base, and I'll put up an illustration from from Mark, who ground this nib, the architect grind, and I think that'll be able to give you a better description of what it's like. So I think the real key to these are going to be when you put nib to paper. So the paper is the Clairefontaine 90 gram, which is one of my favorites. So first we're going to go with the architect's grind. So what this does is the vertical strokes can be fine and the horizontal strokes can be broad. So one thing I love about these 18 karat nibs from Signum is they have a decent amount of softness to them. You know, I wouldn't even call it semi-flex, but they do flex a little bit. They just glide across the paper. So this one kind of gives a different line variation than you would normally expect from other types of pens. And this is the Platinum Sepia Pigmented ink, which gives a nice amount of variation to it, shading. So I think with this pen, it's a good combo. So we're going to take a look at the pen, which is ground more with an italic grind. I think you'll notice right away that the lettering is it's a sharper lettering. And in this case, the horizontal strokes are the fine strokes, and the vertical strokes are the ones that are wider. This is a more common grind that people might be used to. Again, there's a little bit of softness to this nib. And this is the Visconti Sepia Inc, which is a little bit darker than I expected, but it's a nice ink. It certainly works well with this pen nib combination. You may just hear a little bit more on the paper because this one does catch the paper a little bit, which is not unusual for italics to do. I wouldn't call it a sharp italic, but I find that the line variation that you get with this and the crispness of the writing is just something I enjoy. And, you know, there's a natural line variation just when you write. So now we're going to look at the broad nib that has been not ground. I mean, this just is like, it glides, it's smooth, it requires no effort to write with. I'm amazed. For, you know, $75 for the pen, I mean, the nib is worth probably twice that much. And I'd put this nib up against any nib I've ever used. Pelicans, I don't know, that's the only one I can really put in comparison that people seem to enjoy quite a bit. Visconti's, Omas, which I've not had good experiences with their nibs, but this is smoother than any of those I've ever used. These are very consistent writers. I don't have any drying out, no hard starts, no skip, none of that. And I've used the different types of inks from different ink manufacturers. So one of the things, and you can see there is some natural line variation here because you can get a little bit of flex out of the nib. And I just wanted to go into this pen here, which is one I've not done anything in depth on, but I wanted to get one more Signum, and I already got the 3 that were in the Divine Proportions series. So this purple acrylic just caught my eye. Again, the saltillancy, the depth, and this pen, the quality of this pen is just phenomenal. It's up against any other pen I've ever had the pleasure of using. The Signum logo is in the top of the cap, which they've done traditionally. Just a really nice little clip. And what's nice is the cap and the barrel, you run your hand across here, you don't feel any difference. They are absolutely the same diameter. I'm not really a fan of the way the metal has been on the bottom of the barrel, but it does match the top here, and it is a design. It is certainly different than any other pen that I have, which is one of the other reasons that I decided to add this to my collection. For $75 for the nib, that was just mind-blowing. It has a metal section. Pretty much, this is actually a little bit smaller than the section on the Divine Proportions. All of them post well, fit well in the hand. It's a good balance. And this nib is equally smooth. So I have 4 Signums, and all 4 nibs are phenomenal. Out of the box, they're great, and they can be ground and turned into more characteristic or writing with more character. And as you see, this one probably flexes as much, if not more, than the other nibs did. Let's take a look at this a little bit closer up. I always try to experiment a little bit with my photography. I did not buy an expensive camera, but I love the way that it can do close-up work. You can see how those tines spread, and I'm using moderate pressure. I wouldn't call it a lot of pressure, but just a little bit, and we can get some more ink flow out of it. Interesting how the shading of it goes. This is the Noodler's Turquoise, which is actually called Navajo Turquoise, but the name Navajo seems to have been removed from the bottles that were made after the ones that I bought. I think you can take a look at this. I mean, also it's a very wet writer, as you can see. So if we look at the writing here, you can see that how the italic really is a crisper writing style. The architect is a little bit different, and again, I just enjoy nibs. I enjoy writing. I enjoy inks, and the Signums have gotten me into a whole other look at pens, and I've seemed to be fixating on Italians between the Signums and the Deltas. I certainly have been quite lucky to acquire a number of these at a fairly reasonable price. Hopefully you've enjoyed this view of an interesting pen and some of the things I've done with the nibs. So thank you for watching. So this is the end of this video. I wish all of you have incredibly good writing experiences, and may you have many. Ciao.